Welcome back, Screen Ranters! With the Justice League Snyder Cut finally being released and Henry Cavill returning to the franchise, the world is incredibly excited. However, the big question is, how will Superman return to the DCEU? Today we're going to look at all the ways Cavill's Supes can fly back into the DCEU. Will he get a solo film? Will he only make cameos in other projects? Will he be like the MCU's Hulk? Well, the answers to these suggestions and many more will be explored in this video. So hide the green kryptonite in a lead box, and let's get started. The most standard way to bring Superman back into the DCEU is to have him star in another solo film, perhaps a sequel to 2013's Man of Steel. And we're not including the sort of sequel Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice, but Man of Steel 2. The original film, which brought Henry Cavill into the DCEU as the Blue Boy Scout, had a mixed reaction on its release. Some liked the darker portrayal of Supes, like Superman testing out his amateur chiropractic skills out on Zod made sense as he had to make the sacrifice to save others. Others thought it was too far and there were other ways for Supes' hands to remain clean. Regardless, pretty much everyone can agree that Jonathan Kent telling Supes to do nothing as he was sucked into a tornado was a tad silly. Anyway, since the first film brought Cavill into the DCEU, it's fitting that the sequel would bring him back in. However, it would take years for this film to be made. As a result, it makes this unlikely if DC wants to enjoy all the publicity with the Justice League Snyder Cut being released. One of the favorite ideas is to have Superman be like DC's Hulk, meaning we have Supes take a secondary role in DC films. Let's look at the Angry Green Giant. After 2008's The Incredible Hulk followed with the recasting, the character has only popped up in Avengers films and other characters' solo films like Thor Ragnarok. Through all of his appearances, Bruce Banner has undergone his own story arc, from scared loner to vital part of the Avengers to dabbing green dad in Endgame. Supes could follow a similar path. Like we mentioned earlier, DC might want to get Cavill's Clark Kent face into the cinemas as quickly as possible. Oh, whoa, no, not that face. Oof. Wow, that's creepy. We meant a more normal appearance. Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Anyway, the best way to do that is to add him into films that are already in production. DC would then be able to get in on all the publicity they were enjoying at the moment. While it would mean a lot of reshoots to those films coming out soon and possible delays, it's still likely to be quicker than if DC started to create a solo Superman film from scratch. One of the first films Cavill could reboot in is Aquaman 2. Beyond being in the Justice League film together, there's very little to connect Arthur Curry and Clark Kent, as pretty much what makes Aquaman Aquaman is that he spends a large portion of his life under the sea. Like Ariel. I love her. Anyways, Supes doesn't often go into the water to save the day. However, Aquaman 2 could change that. It's due to come out in December 2022 at the moment, which gives DC plenty of time to make some changes in the meantime. In the film, we could have Aquaman and Superman chat about the fallout from the first Justice League film, such as Steppenwolf being anticlimactic and lame. The sequel could even be used to hint towards the story for Justice League 2, if that ever gets to go ahead, of course, such as alluding to Darkseid's likely appearance in the next big bad. The first Aquaman was well received by fans and critics. As such, Supes would start off well by flying into a film that already has a lot of goodwill attached to it. In 2019's surprise hit, Shazam continued on DC's form of putting out great films in the past couple of years. In that moving picture, we did get a surprise appearance of Superman right at the end. Only it wasn't Cavill. It was a faceless Supes, as we never see his head. According to media outlets, Cavill was in talks to make the cameo himself. However, those negotiations broke down. So Zachary Levi's stunt double stepped in and wore the famous House of El suit. Since the film has now established a relationship between Billy Batson and Clark Kent, it would make sense for Superman to play a role in the sequel. And we're not talking about the Black Adam film. We'll be doing that later. At the moment, the Shazam follow-up film is meant to come out in November 2022, giving DC some time to squeeze Superman into their film. On Twitter, director of the first film, David Sandberg, even released an edited video of Cavill in the cameo scene, giving fans further hope that Cavill could make an actual appearance for Shazam 2. Well, the Flash film has been in a strange limbo for some time, sorta like the situation the Gambit film was in. Yeah, still annoyed by that. Anyway, the Flash film has had numerous writers and directors attached to the project. It seems like it would never be made. However, the Barry Allen flick is now slated to come out in June 2022, at least at the moment. The plot isn't confirmed. but it's heavily speculated to be an adaptation of the comic story Flashpoint. In that, Barry goes back in time to save his mother. However, it ruins the present day. Now there's Thomas Wayne as Batman, Martha as Joker, Aquaman and Wonder Woman in a massive conflict, and many, many more. Even after Barry puts things back, the present is still changed and the new 52 is born. Anyway, DC could use this story to reboot their cinematic universe. At the start of the film, the current cast are there. By the end, once everything's changed due to Barry's meddling, part, if not all the characters are now played by different people. It could give Henry Cavill a clean exit if he so wished. It would also help explain why Batman is no longer Ben Affleck. Nope, we are not talking about the TV show. Instead, the film has been mentioned in many articles over the last couple of years. The only name attached to the film is screenwriter Oren Uziel. He wrote The Cloverfield Paradox and 22 Jump Street. He's also going to write Detective Pikachu 2, so you know he's gonna be good. With all the news about Henry Cavill returning, the Supergirl project has apparently been halted for the time being. This could be because now that Superman's back, he might make an appearance in Supergirl's film. It would make sense. They're cousins after all. It would be weird for one to exist without the other. Even the Supergirl TV show has a Superman flying about. In the film, the two super people could find out more about their heritage, such as why Krypton exploded, even introducing the comic's current cause, alliteration, of Krypton's demise, Rogal Zar, the beast that Brian Michael Bendis added to the lore. There's also the possibility that the Supergirl film will be shelved permanently. With Cavill back and Supergirl already having a TV show, Warner Brothers might not want too many Kryptonians in their live-action content, which would be a shame. While Hulk, Hawkeye, and others pop into solo character films in the MCU, Superman could do something a little different. He could be exclusive to the Justice League films. This would make it easier for the casual film audience to follow his story arc. Rather than having to see the solo films of characters they're not interested in for Soup's arc, the audience can stick to the Justice League films they're interested in. Depending on the success of the Snyder Cut, Warner Brothers could decide to fully back Zack Snyder's darker vision of the DCEU, which means we could see an adaptation of the Injustice story on the big screen. For those unsure, Injustice is a video game and comic book series. In it, Superman accidentally wipes out a pregnant Lois during Joker's maniacal plan. Supes then snaps and pretty much becomes a totalitarian dictator to the world. Batman and friends then lead a resistance against the One Earth regime. It's pretty great, but it's also really dark. He wipes out a pregnant Lois Lane. Good lord. Anyways, Shazam, Green Arrow, Guy Gardner, and so many others have a bad time. The DCEU could take elements of the story for their universe, causing the rest of the Justice League to rise up and bring down Superman before he destroys everything. DC has had what's known as the Arrowverse for a long time. Recently, they've been creating content for HBO Max as well. Well, that gives Cavill two avenues to pursue with his return. With the news of Ruby Rose leaving Batwoman and with Arrow coming to an end, Cavill popping up in the TV shows could give it a much-needed boost. However, there'll need to be some universe jumping for Supes to arrive in those shows. But the Arrowverse showed that it can happen due to their Crisis on Infinite Earth story. We even saw Tom Welling's Clark Kent from Smallville. As such, we could have Cavill arrive in The Flash, Supergirl, Black Lightning, Titans, and Legends of Tomorrow. With the new Superman and Lois show due to come out next year, Cavill could always turn up there as well for a cameo. For HBO Max, they're trying to revitalize the Green Lantern brand after 2011's cinematic attempt. It was great. So what better way to get eyes on the product by getting a well-known character portrayed by a well-known actor to guest star in a brand new show? DC enjoys making films about villains. They've tackled the Joker, they've made anti-hero films like Suicide Squad and The Birds of Prey. In December 2021, the release of the Black Adam film is due to release. It stars Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson as the main role. If Adam isn't giving out the people's elbow and the rock bottom to people attempting to attack Kahndaq, then that's a missed opportunity. I know, movies. Adam is often seen as a villain in the comics, but sometimes he's also shown as a misunderstood hero looking to protect his country. As such, it might be a good place to bring Superman back. Superman could be misunderstood by Adam as being a threat to Kahndaq, so the two battle it out. At some point, we know that Shazam and Black Adam will battle, so to keep it fresh, DC could tag in Superman instead. Plus, for those unfamiliar with Black Adam, they will likely know Superman, which means they'll be more likely to watch it in cinemas. Adam's power comes from magic, one of the few elements that Superman is immune to, which would make it a tricky battle for the Man of Steel. With the reboot coming out in 2021, we could have Supes replace what Batman did in the first 2016 film. There we saw Batman make a cameo during the flashback segment involving Joker and Harley Quinn. Instead, we have Supes stop one of the future members of the Squad during their life of crime. Then the government takes possession of them and forces them to take part in Task Force X. Considering Harley is often used to help introduce new characters, such as Birds of Prey, she might be the one that's involved once again when re-debuting Superman into the DCEU. Director of the first Suicide Squad, David Ayer, has stated that Supes was somewhat responsible for the 2016 version being changed, as the negative reception to the darker Batman v Superman caused Warner Brothers to turn Ayer's film into Guardians of the Galaxy Light, rather than have their own dark identity that it was originally. So we could see Superman make a literal impression on the franchise rather than a behind-the-scenes one. But considering the film has already finished production, it's unlikely. But it could already have been done on the sly. And that's a wrap. Which of our possible ways do you think Superman will fly back into the DCEU? Pop your thoughts into the comments below. If you liked the video, please like, share, and subscribe. Those actions really help us out. Finally, thank you for joining us. Bye-bye.